She worked 2 jobs, slept 4 hours a night, and counted every single dollar just to keep a roof over her daughter's head. She had exactly $1,400. Rent was due in 3 days. But when she met a stranger at a pharmacy counter, she gave every last cent away. What kind of mother hands her rent money to someone she just met, knowing she and her 7-year-old could be homeless in 48 hours? Stay with me, because what happened next will change the way you see kindness forever. This is the story of Gloria, a single mother who gave away everything she had for a stranger and discovered that sometimes kindness finds its way back when you need it most. It was a Monday morning in January. The kind of cold that crept through the thin walls of Gloria's apartment like an uninvited guest. The heater in the corner rattled and coughed like an old man trying to clear his throat. It worked, but barely. Just enough to keep the apartment above freezing. Not enough to make it warm. Gloria's alarm went off at 4:45. She didn't need it. She was already awake. She had been lying in the dark for 10 minutes, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her daughter breathing in the next room. That sound was the only thing that made getting up worth it. She swung her legs off the bed and her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor. She winced but didn't make a sound. She never did. Gloria had learned a long time ago how to be quiet, how to move through pain without letting it show. She walked into the small kitchen and flipped on the light. The bulb flickered twice before settling into a dull yellow glow. The kitchen was tiny. A counter, a stove with one broken burner, a refrigerator that hummed too loud, and a small table pushed against the wall with 2 chairs, one for her, one for Zoe. Gloria opened the fridge and pulled out a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. She made a sandwich for Zoe's lunch, carefully cutting off the edges where the bread had gone stale. She wrapped it in a paper towel because she had run out of sandwich bags 3 days ago, and payday was not until Friday. She placed an apple next to it. The apple had a small bruise on one side, but she turned it so the good side faced up. Zoe would not notice. Then she poured herself a cup of coffee. It was yesterday's coffee reheated in the microwave. She had learned to stop tasting the difference a long time ago. Coffee was coffee. It did its job. By 5:30, Gloria was dressed in her scrubs. She had 2 sets, one light blue, one dark blue. She washed them by hand every night in the bathroom sink and hung them over the shower rod to dry. Tonight, it would be the light blue pair's turn. She pulled on her sneakers. The right one had a crack along the sole. She had lined the inside with duct tape to keep the water out. It worked most days. On rainy days, she just accepted the wet sock. Gloria checked on Zoe one last time before leaving. Her daughter was curled up under the blanket, clutching a stuffed bear that had lost one eye and most of its stuffing. Zoe was 7 years old. She had her mother's dark eyes and her grandmother's stubborn chin. She was the reason Gloria did everything. The reason she woke up at 4:45. The reason she never stopped. Gloria locked the front door quietly and walked down the stairs of the apartment building. The hallway smelled like old carpet and cooking oil. Outside, the air hit her face like a slap. January in Memphis was not the kind of cold that killed you fast. It was the kind that wore you down slow. It got into your bones and stayed there. She caught the 6:02 bus to Sunrise Senior Living, the nursing home where she worked as a certified nursing assistant. She had been there for 3 years. The pay was $13.50 an hour. No benefits beyond the basics. No paid sick days. If she missed a shift, she did not get paid. Simple as that. Her day started the same way it always did. She clocked in, put on her gloves, and began her rounds. She bathed Mrs. Patterson, who was 86, and could not remember her own daughter's name, but always remembered to say, "Thank you." She changed the sheets on Mr. Coleman's bed while he told her the same story about Korea he told her every single morning. She helped feed Mr. Davis, who had tremors so bad he could not hold a spoon. The work was hard, not just on the body but on the heart. Gloria lifted people twice her size. She cleaned things most people would not want to think about. She smiled when she was exhausted. She held hands when families could not be there. And at the end of every shift she clocked out, stretched her aching back, and went to pick up her daughter. Zoe attended an after-school program at the community center. It was free, which was the only reason Gloria could afford it. She picked Zoe up at 5:30 every afternoon. They walked home together, Zoe chattering about her day, Gloria listening and nodding, trying to push the tiredness out of her voice. Dinner was usually something simple: rice and beans, pasta with butter. Sometimes, if it had been a good week, chicken drumsticks on sale from the grocery store. Gloria always made sure Zoe ate first. She always made sure Zoe had enough. After dinner, Gloria helped Zoe with homework, ran her a bath, read her a story, and tucked her in. Then at 9 o'clock, Gloria put her scrubs back on and left for her second job. She cleaned offices in a building downtown, vacuuming, mopping, wiping desks, emptying trash cans. She worked until midnight, sometimes later. That was Gloria's life. 2 jobs, 1 daughter, 0 room for error. By the time she got home that Monday night, it was almost 1 in the morning. The apartment was quiet. Zoe was asleep. Gloria sat down at the kitchen table and pulled a white envelope from her purse. She opened it slowly and counted the money inside. 5 20s, 10 50s, a small stack of 10s and 5s. She counted it twice to make sure. $1,400. Rent was $1,200. Zoe's asthma medication was $45. The electric bill was $87 and overdue. The rest would cover food for the week. Barely. Gloria let out a long breath. Not a sigh of relief. More like a sigh of survival. She had made it. Another month. Another set of bills she could just barely cover. She placed the envelope back in her purse and leaned back in the chair. Her eyes drifted to the small shelf above the kitchen counter. There, next to a chipped coffee mug and a jar of sugar, sat a photograph in a simple wooden frame. A woman in nurse's scrubs, smiling wide, standing in front of a hospital entrance. The woman looked like an older version of Gloria. Same dark eyes, same strong jaw, same hands that never stopped working. That was Lorraine Mabry, Gloria's mother. Lorraine had been a nurse at Methodist South Hospital for 28 years, not a doctor, not an administrator, a floor nurse, the kind who showed up early, stayed late, and never once complained about it. She raised Gloria by herself, after Gloria's father left when Gloria was 5. He did not leave because of another woman, or because of some big dramatic fight. He left because he was tired, tired of being poor, tired of trying. One morning he was there, and the next morning he was gone. He never came back. He never called. Lorraine never spoke badly about him. She just worked harder. She picked up extra shifts. She took night classes to keep her certification current. She cooked dinner every night, no matter how tired she was. And she taught Gloria one thing that stuck deeper than anything she ever learned in school. Gloria could still hear her mother's voice saying it, clear as a bell. Like she was standing right there in the kitchen. If you can help someone, and you choose not to, that's a debt you'll carry forever. Gloria heard that sentence 100 times growing up, when her mother stopped to help a stranger change a tire. When she let a neighbor's kid eat dinner with them because his parents forgot to feed him. When she stayed 2 extra hours at the hospital because a patient was scared of dying alone. Lorraine did not just say those words. She lived them. 3 years ago, Lorraine was diagnosed with lung cancer. She had never smoked a day in her life. The doctors said it was just bad luck. The treatment was expensive. Even with insurance, the co-pays and deductibles piled up fast. Gloria watched her mother sit at this very same kitchen table, sorting through medical bills, trying to figure out which ones she could pay and which ones she had to ignore. In the end, the cancer took Lorraine in 11 months. She died in a hospital bed at the age of 61, with Gloria holding her hand and $17,000 in medical debt left behind. The insurance company sent a letter 2 weeks after the funeral. It said they were sorry for her loss. Gloria never got over it. Not the death. She could accept death. What she could not accept was the system that let a woman work 28 years in a hospital and still die broke because of the bills that same hospital sent her. After her mother passed, Gloria's husband Travis left. Zoe was 2 at the time. Travis was not a bad man. He was not violent. He was not cruel. He was just weak. The bills were too much. The grief was too much. The pressure of raising a child in a one-bedroom apartment with no savings and no family was too much, so he left. Same way Gloria's father had left, quietly, without a fight, without looking back. Gloria did not chase him. She did not beg. She just picked up the pieces and kept moving. That was what Mabry women did. They kept moving. She still wore her mother's watch. It was a simple silver watch with a small round face. The battery had died years ago, and Gloria never replaced it. The hands were frozen at 9:17. She did not wear it to tell time. She wore it to remember. It did not tell time anymore. But it reminded Gloria of something more important than time. It reminded her of who she was. Gloria looked at the photograph one more time, then at the envelope of money, then at the clock on the wall. 1:15 in the morning. She needed to sleep. Tomorrow, she had to pick up Zoe's asthma medication from the CVS on Lamar Avenue. The inhaler prescription was ready, and Zoe was down to her last few puffs. $45 after Medicaid. She could not wait another day. Gloria turned off the kitchen light and walked to her bedroom. She lay down on top of the covers, still in her clothes, too tired to change. She closed her eyes and let the hum of the old heater pull her towards sleep. She did not know it yet. She had no way of knowing. But tomorrow, at that pharmacy, she would meet someone who would change the course of her life. And that envelope of money sitting in her purse would never make it to her landlord. The next afternoon, Tuesday, Gloria clocked out of Sunrise at 3:30 and drove straight to the CVS on Lamar Avenue. The car was a 2008 Honda Civic with 163,000 miles on it. The check engine light had been on for 2 years. Gloria had learned to ignore it, the same way she had learned to ignore most warnings in her life. She did not have the money to fix whatever was wrong, so she just kept driving and prayed. Zoe sat in the back seat, her school backpack on her lap, a small sketchbook open in her hands. She was drawing something. She was always drawing something. Houses mostly. Big houses with red doors and flower gardens. Houses that looked nothing like the apartment they lived in. Gloria parked and unbuckled Zoe. They walked into the pharmacy together. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead bright and white, washing everything in a flat, sterile glow. The air smelled like rubbing alcohol and plastic. A few people stood in line at the pharmacy counter at the back of the store. Gloria took a number and sat down in one of the hard plastic chairs near the counter. Zoe climbed into the chair next to her and went back to drawing. Gloria pulled out her phone and checked her bank account. $47.12. She had the cash in the envelope for rent, and the $45 for the medication was already set aside in her wallet. She had planned every dollar down to the cent. There was no room for surprises. Then she heard it. A voice, quiet and shaky, coming from the counter just a few feet away. "I understand, sir. But is there any way I can get just half of the medication now and pay the rest next week?" Gloria looked up. An older woman stood at the pharmacy counter, leaning slightly forward, both hands resting on the edge like she needed it for balance. She was black in her early 70s, with silver hair pulled back neatly. She wore a dark green coat that was old but clean, buttoned all the way up to her chin. Her shoes were simple flats, polished but worn thin at the toes. Everything about her was tidy, careful, the kind of careful that comes from a lifetime of making do with less. The pharmacist, a young man with glasses, shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a pre-surgical prescription. It has to be dispensed as a complete course. I can't split it." The older woman nodded. She opened her purse, a small brown leather bag with a broken clasp, and began pulling out money. A $5 bill, 3 ones, a handful of quarters and dimes. She counted them on the counter slowly, her fingers trembling as she separated each coin. The coins made small clicking sounds against the hard surface. Gloria watched. The woman counted everything twice. Then she looked up at the pharmacist. "How much am I short?" $38, ma'am." The woman closed her eyes for a moment. Just a moment. Then she opened them and began putting the money back into her purse. "I understand," she said softly. "Thank you for your time." She turned to leave, and that was when Gloria saw her hands. They were worn, calloused. The knuckles were slightly swollen, the skin rough and dry. But they moved with a certain steadiness, a practiced steadiness. Gloria knew those hands. Not these specific hands, but hands like them. She had seen the same kind of hands her entire childhood. Nurses' hands, hands that had spent decades lifting patients, adjusting tubes, holding people through pain. Gloria stood up before she fully understood why. "Excuse me, ma'am." The older woman stopped and turned around. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying. She was holding it in, the way people hold it in when they have been holding it in for a very long time. "Are you all right?" Gloria asked. The woman gave a small smile, the kind of smile that says no but is too polite to admit it. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just a little short today. It happens." Gloria looked at the pharmacist, then back at the woman. "How much is the prescription?" "Oh, no, honey. I couldn't ask you to do that." "You didn't ask," Gloria said. "I'm offering." She reached into her wallet, pulled out 2 20s, and handed them to the pharmacist. "Go ahead and fill it for her. Keep the change." The pharmacist looked at the money, then at Gloria, then at the older woman. He nodded and turned to the back to prepare the prescription. The older woman stared at Gloria. Her lips trembled. "Child," she whispered, "you don't even know me." "I don't need to know you," Gloria said quietly. "You needed help. I was here." The woman reached out and took Gloria's hand. Her grip was firm but gentle, warm despite the cold outside. "My name is Evelyn Turner," she said, "and I will never forget this." They sat together on the bench outside the pharmacy, while Zoe drew quietly beside them, her crayon making soft scratching sounds against the paper. "Mrs. Evelyn told Gloria that she had been a nurse at Regional One Health for 31 years before retiring. Gloria felt something shift inside her chest when she heard that. A nurse, just like her mother. Mrs. Evelyn explained that she needed gallbladder surgery. It had been scheduled twice already, but both times she had to cancel because she could not cover her portion of the cost. Medicare paid 80%. The remaining 20%, the co-insurance, came to $1,400. Her Social Security check was $1,680 a month. After rent, electricity, and her regular medications, there was nothing left. She had already sold her wedding ring last month to pay a previous hospital bill. $1,400, Gloria repeated. The words came out barely above a whisper. Mrs. Evelyn nodded. "The hospital said if I don't have the surgery this week, the infection could spread. It's getting worse every day." She paused and shook her head slowly. "I spent 31 years taking care of other people's pain. I never thought I'd be the one sitting here counting coins for my own medicine." Gloria felt like someone had reached inside her chest and squeezed. $1,400. That was the exact number sitting in the white envelope in her purse. The rent money. The money she had spent 2 months working double shifts to save. The money that was due to her landlord on Friday. She looked at Zoe, who was drawing a house with a big red door. She looked at Mrs. Evelyn, whose hands were folded in her lap, trembling slightly, and she felt something pull inside her. Not a thought, not a decision. Something deeper. Something that came from a place she could not name. Gloria did not say anything. Not yet. But as she drove home that evening, her hands tight on the steering wheel, she could not stop hearing 2 things. The sound of Mrs. Evelyn's voice saying $1,400, and the sound of her mother's voice saying, "If you can help someone, and you choose not to, that is a debt you will carry forever." Mrs. Evelyn spoke slowly. Not because she was confused, but because she was careful. She chose her words the way she had probably done everything in her life. With intention, with dignity. She told Gloria that she had been a registered nurse at Regional One Health for 31 years. She started when she was 23 years old, fresh out of nursing school, scared and eager and full of energy. She worked the trauma floor for the first decade. Then she moved to post-surgical recovery, where she spent the rest of her career helping people learn to walk again after hip replacements, knee surgeries, spinal procedures. She lifted grown men out of beds. She changed dressings on wounds that would make most people look away. She held the hands of patients who woke up from surgery, terrified and alone. 31 years. That is a long time to spend carrying other people's pain. Her husband Walter had been a bus driver for the Memphis Area Transit Authority. A quiet man, steady, the kind of man who came home every night at the same time, hung his jacket on the same hook, and asked the same question. "How was your day, Evie?" He died 8 years ago. Heart attack. Right there in the kitchen while he was making coffee. One minute he was alive. The next minute he was not. Mrs. Evelyn paused when she told that part. She did not cry. She just went quiet for a moment, the way people do when they have told the same story so many times that the tears have dried, but the ache has not. She told Gloria she had a grandson named Jerome, a good man, a lawyer who worked with communities, helped people with housing problems and legal troubles. He had a wife and 2 young children. Mrs. Evelyn was proud of him. She talked about him the way grandmothers do, with light in her eyes and a lift in her voice. Gloria asked the question carefully. "Does he know about your surgery?" Mrs. Evelyn looked down at her hands. "He knows I've been having some health trouble, but he doesn't know how bad it's gotten, and I don't want him to." "Why not?" Mrs. Evelyn smiled. A small, tired smile. "Because I raised that boy to stand on his own 2 feet. I taught him to be strong. I can't turn around now and ask him to carry me. That's not who I am." Gloria understood that more than Mrs. Evelyn could know. She understood it in her bones. Pride was not always about ego. Sometimes pride was the only thing you had left when everything else was gone. Mrs. Evelyn explained her situation. She had Medicare Part B, which covered 80% of outpatient surgical procedures, but the remaining 20%, the co-insurance, was her responsibility, for a gallbladder removal that came to $1,400. On top of that, she needed the pre-surgical medication that Gloria had just paid for blood work that had already been done on a payment plan, and a follow-up appointment that would cost another $75. Her Social Security check was $1,680 a month. Rent on her small house in Midtown was $600. Electricity was about $85. Her monthly prescriptions after Medicare Part D still came to around $140. Groceries, phone bill. The small things that added up. By the end of every month, Mrs. Evelyn had almost nothing left. Some months she had exactly nothing. She had sold her wedding ring last month, a thin gold band that Walter had saved 3 months of paychecks to buy. She sold it to a pawn shop on Summer Avenue for $210. It paid for a previous hospital bill that had gone to collections. "That ring was the only piece of Walter I had left that I could hold," Mrs. Evelyn said quietly. "But you can't wear a ring if you're dead." She opened her purse and showed Gloria what was inside. A worn photograph of Walter in his transit uniform smiling, a Medicare card, a folded church bulletin from last Sunday, and $23 in crumpled bills. "That's everything," she said. Not with self-pity, just with honesty, the way you state a fact. Then she looked at Gloria and smiled again, that same sad, steady smile. "But I've had less before and still made it through. The Lord has a way of providing." Gloria looked at Zoe, who was still drawing beside them, her small hand moving the crayon back and forth across the paper in careful strokes. Then she looked at Mrs. Evelyn, at her silver hair, at her steady hands, at the way she sat up straight even when everything inside her was probably falling apart, and she saw her mother. Not metaphorically, not in some poetic abstract way. She literally saw Lorraine Mabry sitting there, the same posture, the same quiet strength, the same refusal to ask for help even when help was the only thing that could save her. Lorraine had been like that too. She had worked through pneumonia. She had hidden bills so Gloria would not worry. She had smiled through chemo and said she was fine when she was not fine at all. Gloria's chest tightened. Something shifted inside her. It was not a thought. It was not a decision. Not yet. It was a pull. Like a hand reaching up from somewhere deep and grabbing hold of her heart. She did not say anything to Mrs. Evelyn about the money. Not yet. She just wrote her phone number on the back of a CVS receipt and handed it to the older woman. "In case you need anything," Gloria said. "Anything at all." Mrs. Evelyn took the receipt and held it gently, like it was something precious. "You're a good woman, Gloria. Your mother raised you right." Gloria almost lost it right there. She blinked fast, swallowed hard, and forced a smile. She did her best. They said goodbye. Gloria buckled Zoe into the car and sat behind the wheel for a long moment before starting the engine. Her hands were shaking. Not from the cold, from something else entirely. That night, Gloria sat at the kitchen table. Again, same chair, same dim light, same hum of the heater rattling in the corner. But everything felt different. Zoe was asleep. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your own thoughts sound like shouting. The white envelope sat in front of her on the table. $1,400. She had counted it twice already, but she opened it again and spread the bills out in a row. 20s, 50s, 10s, 5s. Every single dollar earned on aching feet and sleepless nights. Rent was due Friday, $1,200. Zoe's medication, $45. The overdue electric bill, $87. That left $68 for food. Enough for rice, beans, bread, and peanut butter. Maybe eggs if they were on sale. Gloria stared at the money and felt two things pulling at her in opposite directions. If she gave the money to Mrs. Evelyn, she and Zoe would have nothing. No rent, no way to pay the electric bill, no savings, no credit card, no family to call. She had already used her one emergency option months ago when Zoe had an asthma attack and the ambulance bill ate through everything she had. There was no backup plan. There was no safety net. There was just the floor, and beneath the floor there was nothing. She would lose the apartment. She knew what that meant. Not just moving, an eviction record. Once you had one of those, no landlord in Memphis would touch you. She had seen it happen to people at work. Good people, hard-working people. One bad month, and the system stamped a mark on them that followed them for years. And Zoe. Gloria closed her eyes and saw her daughter's face. Where would they go? A shelter. Gloria had driven past the family shelters on Poplar Avenue. She had seen the lines outside. Women holding children waiting in the cold for a bed that might not be available. She could not do that to Zoe. She could not look her daughter in the eye and explain why they did not have a home anymore. The answer was simple. Keep the money. Pay the rent. Take care of your child. That is what any reasonable person would do. Gloria picked up the envelope and placed it back in her purse. Decision made. She would pay the landlord tomorrow. She would keep her apartment. She would keep her daughter safe. That was the right thing to do. The responsible thing. She turned off the kitchen light and walked toward her bedroom. But she stopped in the hallway. Zoe's door was open a crack. Gloria looked inside. Zoe was curled up under the blanket, her small body pressed against the one-eyed stuffed bear. Her breathing was slow and steady, with that faint whistle that came when her airways tightened in the cold. Her sketchbook lay open on the pillow next to her. Gloria could see the drawing from the doorway. A house with a big red door and flowers in the yard. Gloria stood there for a long time. Then she thought about Mrs. Evelyn's hands, the way they trembled when she counted those coins on the pharmacy counter, the way they gripped the edge of the counter like she needed it to hold herself up. Those hands had spent 31 years lifting people, healing people, and now those same hands could not afford to save the body they belonged to. She thought about her mother, Lorraine, in the hospital bed 3 years ago, her skin gray, her voice thin. Gloria had sat beside her, holding her hand, listening to the beeping machines. And Lorraine had looked at her and said so quietly, "Gloria almost missed it. Don't ever let the world make you hard, baby. Promise me." Gloria had promised. She stood in the hallway between her daughter's room and the kitchen table, between fear and something bigger than fear, between what made sense and what felt right, between the mother she was and the daughter she had been. She did not sleep that night. She lay on her bed with her eyes open, staring at the ceiling, running the numbers over and over in her head. Every calculation ended the same way. There was no version of this where giving the money away made sense. Every number said no, but something else said yes. Something that did not care about numbers. Wednesday morning came gray and cold. Gloria woke up before the alarm. She had not really slept. Her eyes burned and her body felt heavy like she was carrying something invisible on her shoulders. She got Zoe ready for school the way she always did. Made the sandwich, poured the juice, braided the hair, kissed the forehead. After she dropped Zoe off, Gloria did not drive to work. She drove to a payphone outside a gas station on 3rd Street and called the hospital. Methodist Le Bonheur, the billing department. A woman answered. Gloria asked about Mrs. Evelyn Turner's account. She asked about the co-insurance balance for the gallbladder surgery. She asked what would happen if the payment was made in cash in person that same day. The woman on the phone explained that the patient's co-insurance responsibility was $1,400. Payment was required before the procedure could be scheduled. Cash payments could be accepted at the billing office on the 1st floor of the main hospital building. Gloria thanked her and hung up. She sat in the car for 5 minutes. Her hands were on the steering wheel. They were shaking again. Then she drove to Spotswood Avenue. Mrs. Evelyn's house was small. A single-story home with faded yellow paint and a front porch that sagged slightly on one side. The yard had a garden, but everything was brown and dry from the winter cold. Dead stalks poked up from the frozen soil like bony fingers. A rusted screen door hung at the front, and a welcome mat that said, "Bless this home," lay at the threshold, its edges curled with age. Gloria knocked. She heard shuffling inside, slow footsteps. Then the screen door opened, and Mrs. Evelyn appeared. She was wearing a housecoat and slippers. She looked surprised to see Gloria. "Gloria, child, what are you doing here? May I come in?" Mrs. Evelyn opened the door wider and stepped aside. The inside of the house was exactly what Gloria had expected. Small, clean, neat in a way that spoke of discipline and habit. The furniture was old, but well cared for. A couch with a crocheted blanket folded over the armrest. A television on a wooden stand. Family photographs on every wall. The air smelled like lavender and something medicinal, a faint sharpness underneath the sweetness. They sat at Mrs. Evelyn's kitchen table. It was even smaller than Gloria's. 2 chairs, a plastic placemat with faded flowers, a Bible on the counter with a bookmark sticking out from somewhere near the middle. Gloria placed the white envelope on the table. Mrs. Evelyn looked at it. Then she looked at Gloria. She did not open it. She did not touch it. "What is that?" she asked softly. $1,400, Gloria said, "for your surgery." The silence that followed was the loudest silence Gloria had ever heard. Mrs. Evelyn shook her head slowly. "No, no, child. I can't take that." "Yes, you can. Gloria, that's your rent money. You told me your rent is due this week." "I know what it is." "Then you know what happens if you give it to me. You'll lose your home. You have a little girl." Mrs. Evelyn's voice cracked. "I can't let you do this." Gloria reached across the table and placed her hand over Mrs. Evelyn's. "Ma'am, my mama was a nurse, just like you. 28 years at Methodist South. She spent her whole life taking care of other people. And when she got sick, when she needed someone to take care of her, the system let her down. The bills buried her. The insurance wasn't enough. And she died owing money to the same hospital that employed her for almost 3 decades. Gloria paused. Her voice was steady, but her chin trembled. "If my mother were alive right now and she was sitting where you are, I would want someone to help her. I would pray for someone to help her. So, I'm not walking away from you, Mrs. Evelyn. I can't. My mama would never forgive me, and I would never forgive myself." Mrs. Evelyn's tears came then, not loud, not dramatic, just 2 slow streams rolling down her cheeks and falling onto the plastic placemat. She tried to speak, but couldn't. She just held Gloria's hand and squeezed. After a moment, she whispered, "How will you pay your rent?" Gloria forced a smile. "I'll figure it out. I always do." It was a lie. She had no idea how she would figure it out. She had no plan. She had no savings. She had nothing but the $47.12 in her bank account and a rent bill that was due in 2 days. But she smiled anyway. Because some lies are not about deception, they are about mercy. Gloria helped Mrs. Evelyn call the hospital to schedule the surgery. She sat at the kitchen table, while Mrs. Evelyn spoke with the scheduling nurse, confirming the date, confirming the preoperative instructions. The surgery was set for Thursday morning. Tomorrow. The billing office confirmed that if payment was received before 6 o'clock that evening, the surgery could proceed as scheduled. Gloria drove Mrs. Evelyn to the hospital herself. They walked into the billing office together. Gloria counted the money out on the counter, while Mrs. Evelyn stood beside her, one hand on Gloria's shoulder, the other pressed against her own heart. The clerk counted the bills, typed something into the computer, and printed a receipt. "You're all set, Mrs. Turner. Surgery is confirmed for 7:30 tomorrow morning." Mrs. Evelyn took the receipt and held it with both hands, staring at it like it was a letter from God himself. On the drive back to Spotswood Avenue, Mrs. Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Then she reached over and placed her hand on Gloria's arm. "I spent my life helping people walk again," she said. "Helping them breathe again. Helping them live again. And now you're the one helping me." She paused. "God works in circles, child. Don't you ever forget that." Gloria nodded. She could not speak. Her throat was too tight. She dropped Mrs. Evelyn off at her house and watched the older woman walk slowly up the porch steps, holding the railing with one hand and the receipt with the other. At the door, Mrs. Evelyn turned and waved. Gloria waved back. Then she drove away. Her hands shook on the steering wheel the entire way home. The envelope in her purse was empty. The money was gone. All of it. Every dollar she had worked 2 jobs and 60-hour weeks to save. Gone. Given to a woman she had met 24 hours ago at a pharmacy counter. Gloria pulled into the parking lot of her apartment building and turned off the engine. She sat there in the silence. The car ticked as the engine cooled. Outside, the sun was going down, painting the sky in dull shades of gray and pink. January in Memphis. Cold and indifferent. Gloria looked at her phone. $47.12 in her checking account. Rent due Friday, $1,200. The math was not complicated. It was impossible. Gloria did not feel like a hero. She felt terrified. Friday came fast, too fast, the way bad days always do. Gloria woke up at 4:45, same as every other morning. She made Zoe's lunch. She drank her reheated coffee. She went to work. She bathed patients. She changed sheets. She smiled at people who needed smiling at. She did everything exactly the same as always, except that underneath it all, a clock was ticking. At noon, her phone buzzed. A text message from a number she knew too well. Mr. Holloway, her landlord. "Gloria, rent is late. Please call me." She stared at the message for a full minute. Then she put her phone back in her pocket and finished her shift. She did not call him until she was sitting in her car in the parking lot of Sunrise Senior Living. She needed to be alone for this conversation. She needed the doors closed and the windows up. She dialed the number. He picked up on the second ring. Gloria. His voice was not angry. It was tired, the kind of tired that came from having the same conversation too many times. "Mr. Holloway, I'm sorry. I know the rent is late." "Gloria, this is the 2nd month in a row. Last month, you were 4 days late. I let it slide. But I can't keep doing this. I have a mortgage on this building. I have bills too. I understand, sir. I just need a little more time." "How much time?" Gloria closed her eyes. "A week. Just 1 week. I'll have it by next Friday. I promise." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Mr. Holloway sighed. "I can't give you a week, Gloria. I've already been more than patient. I can give you until Sunday evening, 6 o'clock. If the rent isn't paid by then, I have to file." Gloria knew what filing meant. An eviction proceeding. In Tennessee, a landlord could file a detainer warrant after the rent was overdue. From there, it moved fast. A court hearing, a judgment, a record that would follow her for 7 years. And once you had an eviction on your record, finding another landlord willing to rent to you was nearly impossible. Most applications asked the question right there on the first page. Have you ever been evicted? 1 word. Yes. And the door closed before you could explain. It was a trap, a quiet legal trap that caught millions of families every year. You fell behind once, and the system made sure you stayed behind. "I understand," Gloria said. Thank you for giving me until Sunday. I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, Gloria. I hope you know that. I know, Mr. Holloway. He hung up. Gloria sat in the car. The engine was off. The windows were foggy from her breath. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Red eyes, dry lips, dark circles that no amount of sleep could fix, not that she had been sleeping anyway. What have I done? She whispered to the empty car. She thought about Zoe. She thought about the family shelters she had driven past on Poplar Avenue. The women standing in line with their children in the cold, holding garbage bags full of clothes. She thought about Zoe's face if they had to sleep somewhere that was not their home. The questions she would ask. Mama, why are we here? When are we going home? What would Gloria say? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that your mother gave away the rent money to a stranger? Her chest hurt, not her heart. Her actual chest. A physical tightness that made it hard to breathe. But then somewhere beneath the panic, she heard another voice. Not her own. Mrs. Evelyn's. God works in circles, child. And her mother's. From the hospital bed 3 years ago. Don't ever let the world make you hard. Gloria gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She took one breath, then another. I did the right thing, she whispered. I have to believe I did the right thing. She started the car and drove to pick up Zoe. The clock was ticking now. 48 hours. Sunday at 6 o'clock. After that, everything Gloria had built, the apartment, the stability, the small, safe world she had created for her daughter, all of it would be gone. And Gloria had no idea how to stop it. Gloria did not sit around waiting for a miracle. That was not who she was. Mabry women did not wait. They moved. Saturday morning before Zoe woke up, Gloria called her supervisor at Sunrise Senior Living. Her name was Karen. A decent woman, fair mostly. Gloria had never asked her for anything in 3 years. Karen, I'm sorry to bother you on the weekend, but I need to ask you something. Is there any way I can get an advance on my next paycheck, even just part of it? I'm in a really tough spot. There was a pause on the other end. Then Karen sighed, the kind of sigh that tells you the answer before the words come. Gloria, I wish I could, but corporate changed the policy last year. No pay advances, period. The payroll is already locked in for the cycle. My hands are tied. I understand, Gloria said. Is everything okay? Yes, ma'am. Everything's fine. Thank you. Gloria hung up. She stared at her phone for a moment. Then she dialed another number. Denise picked up on the third ring. Denise was the closest thing Gloria had to a best friend. They had worked together at Sunrise for 2 years. Denise was a single woman, no kids, but she had her own mountain of debt. Car note, student loans from a nursing program she never finished. Credit cards she was still paying minimum on. Girl, what's wrong? Denise could hear it in Gloria's voice before Gloria even said anything. Gloria told her. Not all of it, just enough. She needed $1,200 by tomorrow. She could not explain why. She just needed it. The silence on the other end lasted a long time. Gloria, Denise said quietly. You know if I had it I'd give it to you without even thinking. You know that, right? I know. I'm $800 behind on my car payment. They already called twice this week threatening to repo it. I got maybe $60 in my account right now. Maybe. Gloria closed her eyes. It's okay, Denise. I shouldn't have asked. Don't say that. Don't ever say that. You can always ask me. I just wish I could do more than say yes with my mouth and no with my wallet. Gloria almost smiled. Almost. Thank you, Denise. Whatever you're going through, you're going to get through it. You hear me? I hear you. Gloria hung up and sat on the edge of her bed. 2 doors closed. She needed to keep trying. She got dressed and drove to the pawn shop on Summer Avenue. It was a small, narrow store, wedged between a laundromat and a check cashing place. The kind of place where people brought their last valuable things when they had no other options. The sign outside said cash for gold electronics jewelry. Gloria walked in. The man behind the counter was heavy set with glasses and a bored expression. He looked at her the way people in pawnshops look at everyone, like he already knew the story before she told it. Gloria looked down at her wrist. Her mother's watch, the silver face, the frozen hands at 9:17. She unclasped it slowly and placed it on the glass counter. The man picked it up, turned it over, held it under the light. He checked the back. He opened it with a small tool. Then he set it down. I can give you 50 for it. Maybe? It's not worth much. No brand name. Battery's dead. The clasp is loose. $50. Gloria stared at the watch on the counter. $50 would not save her. It would not even cover one day of food and bus fare. But that was not why she hesitated. She picked the watch up. She held it in her palm. The metal was still warm from her skin. Never mind, she said quietly. I changed my mind. She put the watch back on her wrist and walked out. Some things were not for sale. Not because they were worth a lot of money, but because they were worth everything that money could not buy. That afternoon, Gloria drove to the Riverview Community Center on South 3rd Street. She had heard that they offered emergency assistance. She signed in at the front desk and waited 40 minutes in a plastic chair under buzzing fluorescent lights. A woman named Tamika finally called her name. She was kind, but clearly overworked. Stacks of folders covered her desk. The phone rang twice while they talked. Gloria explained her situation. She needed help with rent, emergency funds, anything. Tamika typed something into her computer and shook her head slowly. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program ran out of funding 3 weeks ago. We're waiting on a new allocation from the state, but it could be 4 to 6 weeks before any money comes through. I can put you on the wait list, but I have to be honest with you. There are over 200 families ahead of you. 4 to 6 weeks. Gloria needed the money by tomorrow. Is there anything else? Gloria asked. Any other program? Tamika gave her 2 phone numbers. One for a church-based fund that gave out small grants. The other for a legal aid organization that helped with eviction defense. Call them Monday morning, Tamika said. They're closed on weekends. Monday. Gloria's deadline was Sunday. She drove home. At a red light, her phone lit up with a notification. An ad. Bright letters on a yellow background. Need cash fast. Get up to $1,200 deposited in your account today. Apply in 2 minutes. Payday loan. Gloria had seen these ads 100 times. She had never clicked on one, but today she stared at it longer than she should have. She looked at the fine print at the bottom. Annual percentage rate, 391%. If she borrowed $1,200, she would owe close to $1,800 within 2 weeks. And if she could not pay it back in 2 weeks, which she knew she could not, the interest would keep growing, compounding, eating her alive. She had seen it happen to people at work. Denise had a coworker who took out a payday loan for $500 3 years ago. She was still paying it off. The balance had grown to over $2,000. Gloria closed the ad. That was not help. That was a trap dressed up in bright colors. She had tried everything. Every door she knocked on was locked. Every hand she reached for was empty. Every system that was supposed to help was either too slow, too broke, or too far away. By Saturday evening, Gloria had nothing left to try. She sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the refrigerator. The linoleum was cold against her legs. The heater rattled. Zoe was in her room drawing. Gloria did not cry. She was past crying. Crying required energy, and she had none left. She just sat there, staring at the floor, feeling the weight of 24 hours pressing down on her shoulders like a slab of concrete. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock. That was all the time she had left. Saturday morning started with eggs. Gloria cracked 2 into the pan and scrambled them slowly the way Zoe liked. She made toast with the last of the butter and poured a glass of orange juice. She set it all on the table like it was a normal Saturday. Like everything was fine. Zoe came out of her room, rubbing her eyes still in her pajamas, her stuffed bear tucked under one arm. She saw the table, and her face lit up. Eggs, Mama. We never have eggs on Saturday. Special day, Gloria said. She smiled. It took everything she had to make that smile look real. They ate together. Zoe talked about a girl in her class named Brianna who could do a cartwheel. She talked about wanting to learn how to do one too. Gloria listened to every word. She nodded. She laughed when Zoe laughed. She held on to each small, ordinary moment like it was made of glass. After breakfast, Zoe asked the question Gloria had been hoping for. "Mama, can we go to the park?" "Yes, baby. Let's go to the park." They drove to Overton Park. It was cold, but the sun was out, and the sky was that pale winter blue that made everything look clean and sharp. Zoe ran straight for the swings. Gloria sat on a bench nearby, her coat pulled tight around her, watching her daughter pump her legs higher and higher. Zoe's laughter cut through the cold air like a bell, pure and bright, and completely unaware of everything that was falling apart around her. Gloria's eyes burned. She blinked fast and looked up at the sky until the feeling passed. After the swings, Zoe sat beside Gloria on the bench and pulled out her sketchbook. She drew with a red crayon, then a blue one, then a yellow one. Gloria watched her small hand move across the page with the kind of concentration only children have. "What are you drawing, baby?" Zoe held up the sketchbook. It was a house. A big house with a red door, a chimney with smoke curling out the top, and flowers in the front yard. 2 stick figures stood in front. One tall, one small, both smiling. "This is our house, Mama. And this is you, and this is me." Gloria stared at the picture. The house looked nothing like their apartment. It had a yard. It had flowers. It had a chimney. It looked like the kind of house Gloria had dreamed about when she was Zoe's age. The kind of house she had never lived in. She pulled Zoe close and wrapped her arms around her. "It's beautiful, baby. It's the most beautiful house I've ever seen." They stayed at the park until the sun began to drop and the air turned sharp. Then they drove home. That afternoon, while Zoe watched a cartoon on the small television, Gloria moved quietly through the apartment. She opened Zoe's dresser and picked out the warmest clothes. 2 pairs of pants, 3 shirts, a sweater, underwear, socks. She folded them neatly and placed them in Zoe's school backpack. She went to her own closet and pulled out a plastic bag. She placed her mother's photograph inside, wrapped in a washcloth to protect the glass. She put her important documents in a manila folder. Birth certificates, Zoe's Medicaid card, her ID, the lease agreement that she might not have for much longer. She looked around the apartment, the small table with 2 chairs, the couch with the sagging cushion, the shelf with the photograph of her mother and the chipped coffee mug, the heater rattling in the corner. It was not much. It had never been much, but it was theirs. "Are we going somewhere?" Mama Gloria spun around. Zoe was standing in the hallway holding her stuffed bear, looking at the backpack. Gloria swallowed. "No, baby. Just organizing. Go brush your teeth. It's almost bedtime." Zoe looked at her for a moment longer. Then she turned and walked to the bathroom. Gloria closed her eyes and pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. That night, Gloria lay in Zoe's small bed next to her daughter. It was something she did sometimes on hard nights. Zoe was curled on her side, the bear tucked under her chin, her breathing slow and easy. Mama Zoe whispered in the dark, "Yes, baby, I love our home." Gloria felt something crack inside her chest. Not break, crack, like ice on a pond that is about to give way. "I love it too, baby. I love it too." Zoe fell asleep within minutes. Gloria did not. She lay there in the dark, listening to her daughter breathe, feeling the small, warm body pressed against hers. Outside, the wind picked up. She could hear it, pushing against the windows, rattling the old frames. A dog barked somewhere down the street. A car passed its headlights, sweeping across the ceiling and then disappearing. Tomorrow. It all ends tomorrow. Gloria slid her hand over and found Zoe's hand. It was so small, so warm. She held it gently, careful not to wake her. Gloria closed her eyes, but did not sleep. She just held her daughter's hand and waited for the sun. At that same moment, across town in a hospital room on the 4th floor of Methodist Le Bonheur, Evelyn Turner was awake. The surgery had been 2 days ago, Thursday morning, 7:30, just as scheduled. The doctors said it went well. The infected gallbladder was removed without complications. Mrs. Evelyn would need to rest for a few weeks, but she would recover fully. For a 72-year-old woman, she was strong. The nurses said she was one of the easiest patients they had ever had. She never complained. She never pressed the call button unless she truly needed something. She thanked everyone who walked into her room, from the surgeon to the woman who mopped the floor. That was Evelyn Turner. 31 years of being on the other side of that bed had taught her exactly how to be a good patient. She was sitting up now, propped against 2 pillows, a thin hospital blanket pulled over her lap. The room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of the monitor next to her bed. An IV line ran into her left hand. A cup of water sat on the tray beside her, half empty. She was thinking about Gloria. She had been thinking about Gloria since the moment she woke up from the anesthesia. The first face she saw was a nurse asking her to count backwards from 10, but the face she saw in her mind was Gloria's, standing in her kitchen, placing that white envelope on the table, saying those words that Mrs. Evelyn could not get out of her head. "My mama was a nurse just like you." Mrs. Evelyn wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She had cried more in the past 3 days than she had cried in the past 3 years. At 2 o'clock that Saturday afternoon, the door opened and a man walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, but lean. He wore a simple blue button-down shirt, no tie, and dark slacks. His shoes were clean but not expensive. He carried a small paper bag from the cafeteria in one hand and a bouquet of flowers from the hospital gift shop in the other. Jerome Washington, 38 years old, Mrs. Evelyn's only grandson. Jerome was not a billionaire. He was not rich. He was not famous. He was a community legal aid attorney who ran a small nonprofit called Memphis Community Legal Center. He helped families fight evictions. He helped workers file wage theft claims. He helped people navigate systems that were designed to be confusing. His salary was modest. His office was small. But his knowledge was vast, and his network ran deep into every corner of Memphis social services. He set the flowers on the windowsill and kissed his grandmother on the forehead. "How are you feeling today, Grandma?" "Better," she said. "Much better." He sat down in the chair beside the bed and opened the paper bag. He had brought her a container of chicken soup and a bread roll. She smiled, but did not reach for it. "Grandma, you need to eat." "I will. But first, I need to tell you something." Jerome leaned forward. He knew that tone. It was the tone his grandmother used when something was sitting heavy on her heart. Mrs. Evelyn told him everything. About the pharmacy, about the medication she could not afford, about the young woman who paid for it without being asked, about the bench outside where they sat and talked, about the white envelope, about the $1,400. Her voice broke when she got to that part. "She gave me her rent money, Jerome. Her rent money. She has a little girl, 7 years old. She works 2 jobs, and she handed me an envelope with every dollar she had because she said her mama was a nurse just like me and she could not walk away." Jerome sat very still, his jaw tightened, not from anger, from something else. Something between admiration and heartbreak. "Do you know her full name?" he asked quietly. Gloria Mabry. She lives somewhere in South Memphis. She gave me her phone number. It's in my purse on a CVS receipt." Jerome reached for the small bag of belongings on the shelf beside the bed. He found the purse, opened it, and pulled out the folded receipt. He stared at the phone number written in blue ink. "Jerome, Mrs. Evelyn said, gripping his hand. "That girl is about to lose her home because of me." "No, Grandma. Not because of you. Because of a system that makes people choose between helping someone and keeping a roof over their heads." He paused. "But there are programs. Emergency rental assistance. Legal aid services that can intervene with landlords and delay eviction proceedings. Workforce development scholarships for healthcare workers trying to advance. Most people who need these programs the most don't even know they exist. They don't know where to look, or they don't have someone to walk them through the paperwork." He looked at the phone number again. "I'm calling her right now." Mrs. Evelyn squeezed his hand. Her eyes were wet. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You tell her something for me, Jerome. You tell her that Evelyn Turner does not forget. Not ever." Jerome nodded. He pulled out his phone and began to dial. Sunday morning came the way all dreaded mornings come. slowly, quietly, like it was in no rush to deliver its verdict. Gloria was already awake. She had not slept. Not really. She had drifted in and out of something that was not quite sleep and not quite waking, just a gray space in between where her thoughts ran in circles and her body refused to rest. She got up and walked to the kitchen. The apartment was still dark. Zoe was still sleeping. Gloria filled the coffee pot with water and stood there waiting for it to brew, leaning against the counter with her arms crossed. The clock on the wall said 6:42. She had less than 12 hours. The coffee was almost ready when her phone buzzed on the counter. Gloria looked at it. An unknown number. Memphis area code, but not one she recognized. She almost did not answer. She had been getting calls from bill collectors for months. The electric company, the hospital where her mother had been treated, a credit card company that had sold her old debt to a collection agency. She had learned to let unknown numbers go to voicemail, but something made her pick it up. Maybe it was the time. Maybe it was the fact that she had nothing left to lose. Maybe it was just instinct. "Hello, good morning. Am I speaking with Gloria Mabry?" The voice was male, calm, professional but warm, not a bill collector. Bill collectors had a certain sharpness in their tone, a practiced impatience. This voice did not have that. "Yes, this is Gloria." "Who is this?" "Ma'am, my name is Jerome Washington. I'm Evelyn Turner's grandson." Gloria's breath caught. She gripped the edge of the counter. For a moment, she could not speak. Her mind went straight to the worst possibility. "Is she okay, is Mrs. Evelyn okay?" "She's doing well," Jerome said. "The surgery was successful. She's recovering. She's going to be just fine." Gloria closed her eyes. A wave of relief washed through her body so strong it almost knocked her sideways. "Thank God," she whispered. "Ma'am, my grandmother told me what you did. She told me everything. About the pharmacy, about the money, about your rent." Gloria stiffened, her jaw tightened. "Sir, I didn't do it for anything in return. I don't need anything from you." "I know," Jerome said. His voice was gentle. "Patient, that's exactly why I'm calling." There was a pause. Gloria could hear the sound of a hospital in the background. A distant intercom. The beep of a monitor. "Gloria, I'm a community legal aid attorney. I run a small nonprofit here in Memphis called the Community Legal Center. I work with families every single day who are facing exactly what you're facing right now. Eviction. Medical bills. Impossible choices between paying for one thing and losing another." Gloria did not respond. She just listened. "There is a program through the Tennessee Housing Development Agency called Emergency Housing Assistance. It's a state-funded program that covers rent payments for families experiencing a financial emergency. If you qualify based on income, and from what my grandmother told me you do, they can issue a payment directly to your landlord within 5 to 7 business days. I can help you file the application today, right now, this morning." Gloria felt her legs go weak. She reached behind her and pulled out the kitchen chair. She sat down hard. "I don't understand," she said. "I went to the community center. They told me the program was out of funding. They told me there was a 6-week wait list. The community center administers one specific federal fund. That fund is out of money, but the state has a separate allocation that's still active. Most community centers don't even know about it because it's administered through a different agency. I only know about it because my office processes these applications every week." Gloria pressed her hand against her forehead. Her eyes were burning. "There's something else," Jerome continued. "Methodist Le Bonheur has a Workforce Investment Act scholarship program for certified nursing assistants who want to pursue a registered nursing degree. Full tuition. Book stipend. Flexible scheduling for working parents. My grandmother tells me you're a CNA. If that's true, you'd be a strong candidate." Gloria could not speak. Her throat had closed. "Gloria, are you still there? I'm here," she managed. Her voice broke on the second word. "I know this is a lot to take in, and I know you didn't ask for any of this, but my grandmother spent 31 years helping people she didn't know. And you spent your rent money helping a woman you met at a pharmacy counter. Where I come from, that's not charity, That's community, and community takes care of its own. The tears came then. Not the kind she had been fighting all week, not the sharp panic tears of someone drowning. These were different. These were warm. They came from a place deeper than fear. They came from the place where hope had been buried so long she had forgotten it was there. Gloria sat in the kitchen chair and cried. She cried the way you cry when someone finally sees you, when someone finally says the thing you have been waiting your whole life to hear. You are not alone. There is a way through. And someone is going to help you find it. She was sitting on the kitchen floor now. The same floor where she had sat 2 nights ago in the dark, with her back against the refrigerator, too exhausted to cry. But this time, the light was different. Morning sun came through the window. The coffee pot was full, and the phone in her hand had just delivered something she had stopped believing in. A chance. She heard small footsteps in the hallway. Zoe appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes, the one-eyed bear hanging from her hand. "Mama, why are you crying?" Gloria wiped her face. She opened her arms. Zoe walked over and climbed into her lap on the floor, wrapping her small arms around Gloria's neck. "Because something good happened, baby," Gloria whispered into her daughter's hair. "Something really good." 2 hours later, Jerome pulled up in front of Gloria's apartment building in a dark blue sedan that had seen better years. He stepped out and walked to the door. He was taller than Gloria had imagined. Calm, steady. He shook her hand and looked her in the eye, the way people do when they mean what they are about to say. "Let's get to work," he said. The first thing Jerome did was call Mr. Holloway. He asked Gloria to put the phone on speaker so they could do it together. Jerome introduced himself as an attorney with the Memphis Community Legal Center representing Gloria Mabry. His tone was professional, not aggressive, not threatening, just clear. "Mr. Holloway, my client has applied for emergency rental assistance through the Tennessee Housing Development Agency. The application is being processed today. Once approved, the funds will be dispersed directly to you as the landlord of record. The typical processing time is 5 to 7 business days. I'm calling to request that you delay any eviction filing until payment is received." There was a pause. Then Mr. Holloway spoke. His voice sounded different than it had on Friday. Lighter. "So the state is going to pay the full $1,212. Yes, sir, directly to you. You'll receive a payment confirmation letter within 48 hours of approval." Another pause. "Okay, that works for me. Tell Gloria I'm not trying to make her life harder. I just need to get paid." "I understand, sir. She'll have the documentation sent to you by end of day." When the call ended, Gloria let out a breath she felt like she had been holding since Wednesday. Jerome drove her to his office. The Memphis Community Legal Center was on the 2nd floor of an old brick building on Madison Avenue. The stairs creaked. The hallway smelled like old carpet and printer ink. Inside the space was small. 2 desks, a folding table, metal filing cabinets, posters on the wall with bold letters. "Know your rights as a tenant. Eviction is not the end." A bulletin board covered in flyers for food banks, GED programs, and job training. It was not fancy. It was not impressive. But it was the kind of place where people came when they had nowhere else to go. And it was the kind of place where someone actually listened. Jerome sat Gloria down at the folding table and pulled out a stack of forms. He walked her through each one, line by line, page by page. He explained the income eligibility requirements. He explained what documentation she needed, her pay stubs, her lease, her bank statements, her ID. He explained the timeline and what to expect. "Most people who need these programs never apply," Jerome said, as he helped her fill in the housing assistance form. "Not because they don't qualify, because they don't know the programs exist. Or they tried once, got told no, and gave up. The system is not designed to be easy. It's designed to be complicated. And the people who need the most help are usually the ones with the least time and energy to fight through the red tape." Gloria nodded. She had lived that truth her entire life. While they worked, Zoe sat in the corner on a folding chair drawing in her sketchbook. She had been quiet the whole drive over, sensing the seriousness of the day, but now she was drawing again, which meant she felt safe. After about an hour, Zoe stood up and walked over to Jerome. She held up her sketchbook. "This is for you," she said. Jerome looked at the drawing. 3 stick figures standing in front of a building. 1 tall woman, 1 small girl, 1 tall man with a blue shirt. Underneath, in careful crooked letters, Zoe had written, "That's Mama, that's me, and that's you, Mr. Jerome." Jerome stared at the drawing for a long moment. He blinked. Then he blinked again. He took the paper gently from Zoe's hands. "This is the best thing anyone has given me in a very long time," he said quietly. Before they left, Jerome mentioned the CNA to RN scholarship one more time. He slid a printed brochure across the table. Gloria picked it up and looked at it. Full tuition, flexible schedule, childcare assistance. "I'm not saying you have to do this now," Jerome said. "But when you're ready, the door is open." Gloria held the brochure. She did not say yes. She did not say no. She said, "One step at a time." Jerome nodded. "That's the right pace." That evening, Gloria drove home. The sun was setting. The sky over Memphis was streaked with orange and purple, the kind of sky that looked like it was painted just for her. She put Zoe to bed, read her a story, kissed her forehead, turned off the light. Then she walked to the kitchen and sat down at the table. The same chair, the same dim light, the same hum of the heater. But the weight was different. The air was different. The empty white envelope still sat in her purse. But for the first time all week, it did not fill her with dread. Gloria looked at the photograph of her mother on the shelf. She smiled. "Mama," she whispered, "I think you were right. It does come back in circles." 2 weeks passed. The emergency assistance payment went through on a Thursday morning. $1,200 wired directly to Mr. Holloway's account from the Tennessee Housing Development Agency. He sent Gloria a text message that afternoon. Short and simple. Payment received. "We're good, thank you." Gloria read the message 3 times. Then she put her phone down and went back to work. Life did not suddenly become easy. She still worked 2 jobs. She still made Zoe's lunch with peanut butter sandwiches. She still drank reheated coffee and wore sneakers with duct tape inside. But something had shifted, not her circumstances, not yet, her shoulders. She carried them differently now, a little higher, a little lighter. On a Saturday afternoon in early February, Gloria and Zoe drove to Spotswood Avenue. Gloria carried a small paper bag from the bakery down the street. Inside was a pound cake. It was not expensive, but it was homemade, and Gloria had learned from her mother that you never show up to someone's home empty-handed. Zoe carried a rolled-up piece of paper, tied with a yellow ribbon. Mrs. Evelyn opened the front door before they even knocked. She must have been watching from the window. She looked different than the last time Gloria had seen her, stronger. Her skin had more color. She wore a soft lavender cardigan and slippers, and her silver hair was pinned back neatly. She stood straighter. The pain that had been pulling her down for months was gone. She did not say a word. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Gloria. They stood like that for a long time, 2 women holding each other in the doorway of a small yellow house while the winter sun fell over them. Zoe squeezed between them and handed Mrs. Evelyn the rolled-up paper. "I made this for you, Miss Evelyn." Mrs. Evelyn unrolled it carefully. It was a drawing, 2 houses side by side. One had a red door, the other had a yellow door. In between the houses, 3 stick figures held hands. A tall woman on the left, a small girl in the middle, and an older woman on the right with silver hair drawn in careful gray crayon. "This is our house," Zoe said, pointing, "and this is your house, and we're neighbors." Mrs. Evelyn pressed the drawing against her chest and closed her eyes. "We certainly are, baby. We certainly are." They sat in Mrs. Evelyn's kitchen, the 3 of them around the small table with the faded flower placemat. Mrs. Evelyn made tea. Gloria cut the pound cake. Zoe sat between them, coloring in a new sketchbook that Mrs. Evelyn had bought for her. The kitchen smelled like chamomile and lavender. The radiator clicked softly in the corner. They talked the way people talk when they have been through something together. Not about the hard parts, not about the money, or the fear, or the sleepless nights. They talked about simple things, about the weather warming up, about the garden Mrs. Evelyn wanted to plant in the spring, about Zoe's school and the cartwheel she was still trying to learn. Then Mrs. Evelyn set down her tea and looked at Gloria. "Tell me about your mother, child. You said she was a nurse." Gloria smiled. It was a sad smile, but a real one. Her name was Lorraine Mabry. She worked at Methodist South for 28 years. Started right out of nursing school. She was a floor nurse. Trauma first, then recovery. She never wanted to be anything else. Mrs. Evelyn listened carefully. Then she stood up slowly from her chair and walked to the bookshelf in the living room. She pulled out an old photo album, thick and heavy, with a cracked leather cover. She carried it back to the table and sat down. She opened the album and turned the pages slowly past pictures of Walter, in his transit uniform, past birthday parties and church picnics, and faded Polaroids of people Gloria did not know. She stopped at a page near the middle. "Tennessee Nurses Association," she said. "Annual Conference, 2009, downtown Memphis." She pointed to a group photograph. 3 rows of women in professional attire standing in front of a hotel ballroom. 30, maybe 40 faces. "Is this her Mrs. Evelyn asked, placing her finger gently under a woman in the second row. "Third from the left." Gloria leaned in. Her heart stopped. It was her mother, Lorraine Mabry. Younger, thinner. Smiling that wide, easy smile Gloria remembered from before the cancer took it away. She was wearing a navy blazer and a small pin on her lapel. She looked happy. She looked healthy. She looked alive. And standing in the same row, 5 people to the right, was Evelyn Turner. Younger too, straighter, her hair still dark. Both women in the same photograph at the same event, in the same profession, in the same city. They probably never spoke to each other that day. They probably passed each other in the hallway without a second glance, just 2 nurses among dozens. But now, 17 years later, their lives had collided through a moment of kindness at a pharmacy counter, through a daughter who could not walk away. Gloria touched the photograph with her fingertip. She traced the outline of her mother's face. "She looks so young," she whispered. Mrs. Evelyn placed her hand over Gloria's. "She raised a good daughter, a daughter who does what's right, even when it costs her everything. That didn't come from nowhere. That came from her." Gloria could not speak. She just nodded and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Zoe looked up from her coloring. She glanced at the photo album, then at her mother, then at Mrs. Evelyn. She did not understand what was happening, but she understood the feeling in the room. So she did what children do. She climbed off her chair and squeezed herself between the 2 women, one arm around each of them. "Don't be sad, Mama," she said. "Miss Evelyn is okay now. You fixed it." Gloria laughed through her tears. She kissed the top of Zoe's head. Mrs. Evelyn kissed the other side. 3 women, 2 generations, one thread of kindness stitched through all of them. 6 months later, Gloria's life looked different. Not unrecognizable, not like a movie montage where everything changes overnight, but different in the ways that matter. She had enrolled in the CNA to RN program at Methodist Le Bonheur. Classes 2 days a week. Clinical rotations 1 day a week. The scholarship covered tuition books and a small monthly stipend that was just enough to replace her night cleaning job. She no longer worked 2 jobs. For the first time in years, Gloria slept at night. Actual sleep. The kind where you close your eyes and do not open them again until morning. She still worked at Sunrise Senior Living. She still made $13.50 an hour. She still wore the same 2 pairs of scrubs, though she had bought a 3rd pair from a thrift store on Poplar Avenue. She still drove the 2008 Civic with the check engine light that had been on since before she could remember. The problems did not disappear, but the direction changed. And sometimes direction is everything. Mrs. Evelyn had become a permanent fixture in their lives. Every Saturday, Gloria dropped Zoe off at the yellow house on Spotswood Avenue. Mrs. Evelyn taught Zoe how to make cornbread from scratch. She taught her how to plant tomato seeds in small cups and set them by the window where the sun came in. The garden was green again. Spring had arrived, and with it everything Mrs. Evelyn touched seemed to bloom. Zoe called her Miss Evelyn. Then she started calling her Grandma Evie. Mrs. Evelyn never corrected her. She just smiled wider. Gloria and Jerome stayed in touch. Not as anything romantic, not as a fairy tale, as something more grounded than that. Respect, gratitude, and the kind of friendship that forms when two people see each other clearly and choose to show up anyway. Jerome invited Gloria to volunteer at the Memphis Community Legal Center one evening a week. She helped other families fill out the same emergency assistance forms that had saved her. She was good at it. Not because she had any legal training, but because she knew what it felt like to sit in that chair. She knew the shame of asking for help. She knew the confusion of staring at a government form that seemed designed to make you give up. And she knew how to say the one thing that mattered most: you are not alone. One Tuesday afternoon in July, Gloria was at the center sorting paperwork when the front door opened. A young woman walked in. She was maybe 25, thin, tired in a way that went deeper than sleep. She wore a faded t-shirt and jeans that did not fit quite right. She was carrying a toddler on one hip, a diaper bag over the other shoulder, and in her free hand a crumpled piece of paper. She stood in the doorway, looking around the small office like she was not sure she was in the right place. Like she was not sure she deserved to be there. "Can I help you?" Gloria asked. The woman's chin trembled. "I got an eviction notice," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know what to do. I don't have anyone. I don't know where to go." Gloria looked at her. At the dark circles under her eyes, at the toddler gripping her shirt, at the crumpled paper in her hand, and she saw herself, 6 months ago, standing in her kitchen at 1 in the morning, staring at an empty envelope, wondering how she was going to keep a roof over her daughter's head. Gloria stood up. She walked over to the woman and pulled out a chair. "Sit down," she said gently. "Take a breath. Let me tell you something. 6 months ago, I was exactly where you are right now, and someone helped me. So now I'm going to help you." The woman sat down. The toddler reached for a crayon on the desk. Gloria handed it to him with a smile. And just like that, the circle continued. Not because Gloria had money, not because she had power or connections or a fancy degree, but because someone once told her that if you can help someone and you choose not to, that is a debt you will carry forever. Gloria believed that now, not just as words, as a way of living. Now I want to step back from the story for a moment and talk to you directly, because Gloria's story is fiction, but the truths inside it are not. Gloria did not help Mrs. Evelyn because she had enough. She helped because she knew what it felt like to have nothing and still need someone. That is the first truth of this story. Kindness does not come from having more than enough. It comes from knowing what it feels like to not have enough. The people who give the most are often the ones who have the least, not because they are foolish, but because they remember. The second truth is about systems. In the United States right now, there are emergency rental assistance programs, hospital financial aid funds, workforce development, scholarships, and legal aid services that exist specifically for people like Gloria. They are real. They are funded. And millions of people who qualify for them never use them. Not because they are lazy, not because they do not care, but because they do not know these programs exist. Or they tried once, got turned away, and gave up. Or they could not get through the paperwork without someone to guide them. Jerome did not save Gloria with money. He saved her with knowledge. And that might be the most important lesson in this entire story. Sometimes the difference between losing everything and keeping everything is not a check. It is a phone call from someone who knows the system. The third truth is about people like Gloria. Certified nursing assistants are some of the lowest paid healthcare workers in America. They earn an average of $13 to $15 an hour. They lift patients. They bathe them. They hold their hands when no one else will. They work holidays, weekends, and double shifts. And many of them go home to empty refrigerators and overdue bills. Gloria's life is not unusual. There are millions of women just like her, working 2 jobs, skipping meals, choosing between medicine and rent, holding their families together with nothing but willpower and love. They deserve to be seen. They deserve to be valued. they deserve more than what they are getting. And the fourth truth is about community. Jerome did not write Gloria a check. He did not throw money at her problem. He did something far more valuable. He shared what he knew. He opened a door she did not know existed. He sat beside her and helped her fill out forms. That is what community looks like. Not grand gestures, not viral moments, just one person using what they have to help another person get what they need. So let me ask you this. Have you ever helped someone even when you could not afford to? Have you ever been the one who needed help and did not know where to turn? Do you know someone right now today who might need to hear this story? Think about that and hold on to it. Now, before I let you go, I want to be honest with you about something. This story is a work of fiction. Gloria is not a real person. Mrs. Evelyn is not a real person. Jerome is not a real person. I created them. I gave them names and faces and voices. But the struggles they face, the medical debt, the eviction threats, the low wages, the impossible choices between helping someone and keeping a roof over your own head, those are very real. Millions of Americans live them every single day. If you or someone you know is facing eviction or drowning in medical bills, please reach out to your local legal aid office or call 211. That is a free, nationwide number that connects you to community resources in your area. Help exists. Sometimes you just need someone to show you where the door is. I want to share something personal with you. I wrote this story because I grew up watching my own mother work 2 jobs to keep our family together. I know what it feels like to sit at a kitchen table and count coins and pray they add up to enough. I know what it sounds like when the phone rings and you are afraid to answer because it might be someone asking for money you do not have. Gloria's story is not just fiction to me, it is personal. And I believe stories like these matter because they remind us of something the world keeps trying to make us forget. That kindness is never wasted, even when it costs you everything. If this story moved, you please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know who is sitting at their own kitchen table right now, counting their own money, facing their own impossible choice. Your share might be the thing that reminds them they are not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you have done what Gloria did? I genuinely want to know. And please subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell, because there is another story coming very soon. One that I think will stay with you for a long time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching until the very end. Thank you for being the kind of person who cares about stories like this, that says something about you, something good. Be kind, be brave, and remember, sometimes the smallest sacrifice creates the biggest miracle. You never know when the kindness you give away will find its way back to you. God bless you.